They can all follow us or whatever. So, if everyone's comfortable, maybe just start introducing who you are. Obviously, I'm Brian, Turf Care blog, day job, Sussex Cricket. Yeah, that's me.
Good.
Anyone else?
I'm Stuart Butler, Henry Weston's old mate, the podcast. Currently greenkeeper at Westgate and Birchington Golf Club, formerly 10 years at Royal St George's. So that's me.
Thanks, Stu.
I'm Scott. I head up the sports turf team at University of Leicester.
Thanks, Scott.
I'm Jackie. I'm head of grounds at Wellington College in Crowthorne, independent school.
Thank you, Jackie.
I'm George, the head of grounds at Aldenham School.
Thanks, George. Sorry, George, I said hello to you.
No worries, I won't take it personally.
You there, Will?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yep, we all can hear you, mate.
Good. Yeah, evening all. My name's Will. I've run my own lawn care business in Norfolk. Been now into my 5th year of doing that. So
Brilliant. And I think it's just me now.
Straight ahead.
It's just me, just Jimmy the Mower. Is that right? I'm just Jimmy the Mower.
What are you? Right. Right, so I'm just looking to see if David's here. If not, I think we probably will. Oh, there's Ed there. Just want to get Ed in, so invite to speak. Here we go. Give it a couple of seconds just for Ed, and then we will definitely start. Ed, you just have to request to speak, and I'll let you in. There we go. You've got the invitation now, so just request to speak, mate. Right, maybe we can start on our first question anyway, because it will be two people out of. I mean, if someone else really has something strong to say, they can all chip in. But the first question would be, in your own experience, what are the challenges that you're finding in terms of pay and retention of staff? Welcome, Ed. Is any?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ed.
Hi.
Currently working at Garson's down in Bishop Stortford.
Oh, well done, Ed. Thanks for joining us, mate. You haven't missed anything. I was just going to ask the first question, and it will just be a couple of. There's 7 or 8 of us, so just a couple of people just to answer this question. Whoever feels, because I don't want to put people on the spot too much. But basically, again, is what is your own experience towards the challenges in terms of pay and retention of staff? Are you struggling? Are you doing okay? Is it, we have a couple of people's views on that. If you,
as I said to you earlier, I've been trying to recruit now for the last 18 months or so, and it's very, very difficult because we're not getting any applicants at all. If we do, they are generally non-skilled. In terms of pay, I think, we are getting slightly better in that regard, although it's still not ideal, obviously, with the cost of living and everything increasing rapidly. And again, sort of retention, we tend to find sort of a good one that we want to sort of hang on to, He's put me off my train of thought now.
It's fine.
I suppose what you think. Why would people come into this industry? The hours and that work-life balance can take over your life. The salary's not great, and so it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, there's no consistency through the salary either, is there? We follow the rough salary guidelines set out by the GMA, but that's not imposed anywhere, is it really?
No.
Some good
Interestingly on this, in my role at Aldenham, I'm the ground supervisor. I'm 30 years old, so I'm actually the youngest member of my team, and I'm the ground supervisor. The vast majority of my team are sort of far closer to retirement age, which speaks to a similar sort of situational problem as well.
So replacing them is going to be a real challenge, isn't it?
It will be, yeah. When we do come to that at some stage in the future, because I've got a couple that are sort of within a couple of years, we'll be looking at retirement. We'll be looking down the apprenticeship sort of route and trying to start at the bottom again, really.
That's great. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. That might be the thing to start doing, is trying to get apprentices at least.
So I used to work at a sports club, and there we could employ 16-year-olds. Now I'm working at a school. The company policy is not to employ anyone under the age of 18. But I had 3 really successful apprentices that have all gone on to be groundsmen at other facilities that all started out at 16 for me when I was working at a sports club.
Yeah.
What's that? Just down to insurance, then, is it, George?
I think it's more a child welfare thing. So it's based around the fact that some of the students at the school are still under the age of 18. And it's more of a welfare thing of not having a 16-year-old that's an employee that's the same age as some of the students.
Oh, right.
I think, is it also to do with the hours that they can work at that age?
It to a degree, but I don't think that it was a barrier for us. We worked around that situation when I was at the sports club, so we would have been able to work around that as well at the school.
That's interesting. Yeah, apprenticeships are great if you can get them. It's a challenging even to just get apprentices now, isn't it? Some places doing really well with it, which we do at Sussex Cricket really well with it. But then other places that they can't even get anyone. There's no easy answers.
Well, if you're trying to pull them in from other trades, you've got to think what does like our industry really offer. We're in this industry and we understand what we can do and how far you can go, and there really aren't any limits. You could be head groundsman anywhere you want, really, from starting as an apprentice. But to somebody from the outside looking in, it's just baffling. I don't think there's enough information out there for people to make an informed decision or choice. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the things I did when we were trying to recruit last year was actually change the title. So we were advertising for groundsperson, and then when I actually Googled groundsperson, obviously that covers sort of landscaping, gardening, sports turf. But then if you Google sports turf operative, it's actually a defined role. So I went to our HR department and I said, look, let's just try advertising for sports turf operatives, just to make it clearer sort of what we're actually looking for. And it did, I think it does sort of make a difference. I don't know your views on that one.
Yeah, I think it does massively. It just down to the daft things. It's like today, always in the winter time, all our trucks are serviced, MOT'd, insured. Everything's done winter time when we got time to go through the admin side of things. And like insuring the truck again today. And, we all know what I do. I look after football pitches, cricket outfields, children's play parks, general amenity areas, etc., etc. I cut grass. I'm a grass cutting contractor. And then the only title that I can have on an insurance document for a truck is landscaper or landscape gardener. And I think, well, I'm none of these. Which do I fit into?
Yeah.
Is that? I wonder if that's the same with like the lawn care side, Will.
Yeah, very much the same. Yeah, any insurances from our point of view, I think we have to go down as landscaping, excluding tree work, which is, we don't do any landscaping. So yeah, I agree with Jimmy there.
Yeah, it's a defined thing. For somebody from the outside looking in, it's so different. I'm like on the phone to the insurance company today and we're chatting away and it's like landscaping. Well, I don't really do landscaping. It's just grass. Gardener. Well, I'm not really a gardener,
Yeah.
you're sort of trying to put it in a box, and there isn't a box to put it in at the moment. And like you say, sports turf operative. Now there's something that's great. Grounds person, that's great. We understand that. I think the lack of education from outside the industry really starts to show, especially sort of with people, I don't know, sort of media types coming in, they're sort of looking at things from the outside in, and they don't quite understand what goes on, even though they're trying to report it from the outside and trying to get a grip of what happens. They don't quite understand what's happening. I mean, I did some filming a couple of weeks ago, and they turned around and said, "Oh yeah, well, what we want is this, striped football pitch in the background and blah 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 and whatever else." And I said, "Mate, I look after council pitches. It's the end of January, start of February. We're not going to get any of that. We're going to get mud baths that are like barely like any green visible. I'll do the best I can for you, but I'm like, oh right. Well, we like these grassroots clubs. Like we've been to Kidderminster Harriers and stuff, and I'm like, well." Grassroots clubs that have got a stadium and a full-time groundsman, I don't think they're, particularly grassroots clubs, if I'm honest with you. But that's the perception from outside, isn't it? It's difficult to try and persuade people otherwise. I think, which we all need to try and bring people in. I try my best. I put the stuff out on social media all the time. I'm always banging on about it, with whoever's doing what, whether you're county cricket level, amateur, village cricket level, whether you're national stadium. I'm always going on and comment and push it forward into the public sort of view, so they can see what's happening. And it is working, but it's just so slow. And until we can sort of pick that up, I think we'll struggle to attract people. But like the chap said before, he got a couple at 16, put those through, and they did it, and they become successful at what they do. And it just shows you, if you can get the people, they can go really far. There is no limit on what you can do, is there? There is no limit. It is, and I know people say that when you're sort of younger, you can do anything you want, but in this industry, it really is true. It really is. You can just, you can go all the way.
So, yeah, great.
That's my bit anyway.
Yeah. We might move on to our next question now. Just so, why do employers not understand the full extent to the role of what we do? They seem to be. You always come across this. They don't really get what you do. They don't. Is it us? Is it our communication style that needs to improve? Very much with me. But I just. Eyes glaze over very quickly when you're trying to speak to them, and why do they, they see you out there every day doing all these different things. It's not just cutting grass. There's so many different elements. They see you spray and stuff, but why do they not see us as anything, the full extent of what we do? I mean, some do. I think Sussex Cricket, they do with their ground staff. They understand it. I'd say 90% they do in their brains. They kind of get it. And they're very respectful, but why do other employers not quite get that?
I think some do. Quite often, again, we get mistaken for sort of the gardening team at Wellington, and it's no matter how many times I say I don't deal with sort of the flower, the pretty side, that side of things. I deal with the sports pitches. It's a slow process, but it's all about just educating them as well, and taking time out just to, grab, I don't know, somebody from the events team or somebody from HR or somebody from the office and say, look, come and have a walk and come and see exactly what we do. And then they can go back to their office or whoever and, say, oh, this is what they do out there. Did you know this? And it's just all about educating them, I think.
Do you think you're, because you've got a Twitter account for your team, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you think that really helps? Are they on there? Would they see that or?
Yes, yeah, they do. That helps, especially sort of the rugby coaches, the football coaches, the cricket coaches. I sort of, obviously you've seen sort of the posts that I put up. It can be anything from painting rugby posts to marking lines, mowing pitches. It also gives them more of an idea of what we do rather than them just coming out and going, wow, look at that. I think sometimes they think the fairies do it overnight. But
Stu, on golf,
yeah.
A lot of golf clubs have I don't know how often they have it. Like the greenkeepers will set up some tables with like some different length spikes on it and sort of some little profiles of sand profiles, cores and that. and it's sort of, and the members will be invited, have a cup of tea, and sort of members meet the ground staff, kind of what they do. Is that something that happens? I've seen that around.
It doesn't happen where I'm at, and I haven't experienced it too much. You know what my experience of golf is. Sadly, if you were to run, say, 12 events over the course of a year, one a month, you would, let's say you had 10 faces come to each one. Probably there would be 9 of the same faces every month, and maybe one different one. It's sadly for me, in my experience of golf members, they're not really interested, sadly, and the ones that are few and far between. But people want to turn up. They want to put their ball on the first tee, walk 18 holes, and go home. I have tried to I communicate monthly with an end of month letter to the membership. All very positive. I try not to moan or groan about anything, but it's the same people who read it. I don't know what everyone else thinks. Obviously, I see a lot of the same people every day. I guess you guys who might do cricket, I know Jimmy probably doesn't see any of the guys really, because he's cutting when they're not playing. But I have a lot of interaction with my membership, but that interaction is only with the few who want to interact with me. The vast majority of members, in my experience, have no interest in what we do, sadly.
But all have an opinion, maybe.
All have
at times.
Well, at the minute, they're actually a lot better. But yeah, again, you guys will all have similar experience or within the sports club. I mean, my club has a board of directors. I think there's 8 directors sit, and they make the big decisions. Sadly, they push me in certain directions, and obviously not one of my have experience in sports turf or golf as such. They are accountants, they manage restaurants, but they do quite often see fit to put policy in place to direct me daily.
Yeah. Anyone else any input on this sort of?
I think I've always just put myself forward, and the events department, and they're the first people I go and see when I start a new job, and get everything I can on. Twitter has just been brilliant for me, and educating all the members of the staff that work within schools, but also the parents then get on board, and people start to know who you are, and then I think it's really important to just try and I'll just go and knock on the head teacher's door and go and explain what we're doing, kind of thing. I'm pretty annoying, I guess, but it's just trying to show what passion you have for something, and trying to get them to see that. And when they do see that in you, they suddenly do start to take a bit of an interest. That's how I've always approached that.
That's brilliant. That's what we all have. We all have a passion, don't we? You know, and that's something that you'd hope would be infectious, you know?
Yeah.
Then also with passion, sometimes we lose perspective because the passion can override sometimes, can't it?
Yeah.
So that's probably, you know, something of a challenge at times. Sorry.
Everything is, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but at the moment, I mean, passion and everything, it seems to everything just is boiling down to the cost of things at the minute, and that seems to be diluting enthusiasm within the industry. It seems to be holding so many people. I mean, there's so many things that I'm sure we'd all like to do, but we can't knock on the door. You know, Ed was just mentioning sort of we knock on the door with wonderful ideas. I could take a lot of wonderful ideas to my directors and my line managers, and I know the first response is, "That's brilliant, Stuart, but what's it going to cost?" Because everything is so bloody expensive at the moment.
Yeah. The thing is, I think we all push everything to the extremes with the budget that we've got, and then when there is a budget cut, or in real terms a budget cut, you know, as things go up, you've put yourself under so much pressure to produce the services that you do, that any drop in money coming through, it just crucifies it, and you're working harder and harder to try and achieve the same result with less than you had before. Is the crux of it, really. And then when we sort of do get towards a boom time and things are on the up, we're sort of last down the list for the money to filter through. Really, it's you're all. I've never met somebody who works in our industry as a groundsperson who can't make something out of absolutely nothing, and I mean that wholeheartedly. No matter where you go, people are performing far greater. Like achieving far greater things than their budget allows everywhere you go. That's 100%. That is across the industry.
Definitely.
You then run the risk of. Do you then, Jim, potentially run the risk of yourself up to fail with regards? I mean, I know if I had a couple of £1,000 in my budget, for example, and I don't have any money for tees or aprons on my golf course at my current spot, so they sort of manage themselves really. If I had £2,000, would I invest it in fertiliser on my aprons to improve them 1 year to potentially then? Obviously, you'd love to, but then next year when the aprons aren't looking quite so good because you don't have that £2,000, where do you go then?
Yeah, this is it. This leads us back to the pressure we put ourselves under, isn't it? Like you say, you're almost setting yourself up to fail. You're wanting to achieve things, and make everything as great as you possibly can. And some years, whether it's budget cuts or funding allowances or whatever we get, maybe weather, maybe machinery requirements, and we can't quite achieve that, and we beat ourselves up about it, and we get pressure from above because there isn't the understanding of the industry where, if they all understood what we did and how we did it, they would understand these things and realize that, it's not going to be better year on year, even though we would like it to be all the time.
Well, I wonder if some of that pressure we put ourselves under is dictated by those professional clubs who set the standards for the grass. Then we look at our grass and you think, that we can reach those levels, and we try to reach those levels, but without the resources and the staffing levels and the finances to go along with it.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? You're pushing. Everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're looking after, a village green that somebody has a five-a-side game on once a week, or you're looking after, Old Trafford or Wembley. Everybody's striving for that perfection, and they're looking at whatever they can see on TV or wherever you can see it, and you're pushing towards it to try and do the best with what you've got. I think that's what drives us all in this industry, is the fact that we all like to try and do something, and we like to achieve, and we like to push ourselves. But I think one of the biggest downfalls is that we do that. Other people from different industries, there's the that'll do attitude, and it's they're just that'll do for this week or whatever it is. I'm like I'm striving every week to try and every week, every month, every season. It's always trying to make it a little bit better than the last. That's how it works. But it's hard work, but we do it because we enjoy it. But if other people had the understanding that we have, maybe it wouldn't be so tough, and we wouldn't be so tough on ourselves.
That's great, Jimmy. Thank you for that, rounding that up. What we'll probably do now is just go on to. I did have a couple more questions in that side of it, but I think we'll try and get the mental health chat involved into it now, because otherwise I'm worried that we're not going to have quite enough time to cover everything that we could have done a part 2. But anyway, so what my first question, kind of in the mental health section, is why is there such a poor mental health in our industry? Is this just reflection of society? Is it reflection of, or is it just a reflection of our industry, really? I'm just wondering what your thoughts were.
For me, it's Brian. It's down to the expectation levels. That right in the previous discussion, I think we are probably most of us guilty of putting high expectation levels on ourselves, but so that the expectation placed on us by employers, by captains of cricket, football, rugby teams, by everyone, they are grossly, in my opinion, unfair and in the whole unachievable. And I don't think enough praise is given to basically, treading water season after season. If you've got someone like myself, sort of maintaining standards on a very tight budget year after year, that's quite often not seen as good enough, sadly. And then you do start to take that personally. We're all hard up. Everyone's got less and less money every year. Yet expectations are increased, and I don't think, in my experience, people aren't putting enough focus on us as individuals. It's them, me as an individual. I have responsibility to the 4 guys I manage, but no one seems to want to take on the responsibility of me above me.
That's interesting. Anyone else?
I think
for me personally at the school, I find that pretty much all the pressure from my job, both here and in my previous position, was almost entirely put on by myself, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of lone working and a lot of responsibility resting on your shoulders. That's the thing, isn't it? I'm sure we all find that. You do spend a lot of time alone, which isn't always great for your mental health.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as you guys have already said, the expectation on ourselves. I admit I'm completely guilty of putting far too much pressure on myself, and at the moment I am currently suffering with mental health issues. That was all sort of triggered after Christmas with sort of the weather. That had a massive impact, because I don't know if any of you agree, but I think we're seeing extremes in terms of the weather. One minute we've got sub-zero temperatures, and then we've got torrential rain, and then it's either too dry. It's that battle. Whereas years ago, I feel that we used to be able to sort of plan our work slightly better in terms of, oh yeah, this month is usually quite wet, so yes, I will put sort of granular fertilizer down or whatever. But now it's like, you're trying to sort of rely on the forecast, which at the moment is not very reliable. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the support, I feel sort of at Wellington that I am getting sort of the right amount of support from, whether that be HR or line managers or, people above that level as well. I don't know if that kind of is a general thing or if I'm just sort of lucky at Wellington.
I think it's a general thing all over. Obviously, mental health. I've been sort of open and spoken about how I've struggled over the years with it, and how it can sort of, the work-life balance sort of, before you know it, sort of swallows you up. And there's not many other industries that have such an impact as the weather. If you work in an office, you can do 60-70 hour weeks, but I should imagine they're quite productive. We're so dictated by the weather, and that's why we have to go above and beyond half the time.
So becoming head of grounds and also sort of trying to raise a small child and sort of struggling with the childcare side of things, as well as sort of the work side of things, that has a sort of huge impact as well, I think. That is the sort of work-life balance, and I'm guilty of it sort of swallowing me up.
I think from my side of things, I think mentioned the pressures. For me, it was pressure on myself was the biggest thing for me. And I think we spoke about it. How do we get people into the industry, and how do we retain people in the industry? It's quite hard when you look at yourself and you think, well, why would someone want to come in and slog themselves like they do and never be good enough? So we're kind of answering the questions to the other 2 questions that we had before, because we're we're our own worst enemies in a way.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Who's heard that before?
Yeah.
I was told that. I'm always told that my boss doesn't really need to manage me because I'm my own police force kind of thing, you know. So it sounds very familiar. But also there is a lot of pressure also with the job, as you say, with weather and the passion side of it. You know, we are passionate individuals. We want to go above and beyond and push ourselves. I was just wondering, you know, do we feel that social media, it has a lot of positives, but it is that a pressure as well on us? You know, when we see the college down the road that's all stripy and ours hasn't had a cut for a few weeks, things like that are factors?
I don't feel that it is. I love seeing what other people are doing, whether it's better or worse or in whatever state. I enjoy seeing what other people are going through. I think it's a brilliant thing is social media, but then I think other people have had negatives from it, which thankfully I've not really had too many of them.
I think you can strive for, you know, start getting dictated by Twitter. You can put like a photo that you think's amazing on there, and you only got like 4 likes, and you think, oh, what's wrong with that one? You know.
Yeah, that does happen. You know, a lot of people spend a lot of time on social media doing a lot of stuff, and you can put something on. Again, it's like that perfectionist thing, isn't it? You know, you're head groundsman at some fantastic facility, and something's not quite 100% that week, and you'll get slated for it. Yet there's somebody, you know, right down at the bottom, and they're pulling everything out, and it's like pretty threadbare through the middle, bit of green around the edges, and everybody's, you know, again they start slating it, but they're equally as good, and you need to go on there, and you need to sort of be a bit more positive, like try and be positive and put a positive spin on it and say, look, you know, any grass down the middle at this time of year, you're doing well at the level we're at. Anywhere above that, you know, this even struggling at such and such, we're doing all right, and just sort of build everybody up if we can, and if you can build other people up as you're going along as well, it does make a sort of a great community. And we have got a good community on Twitter, I think, with so many people. There is a lot of positivity about, and a few negative people come in, and they're not, you know, they're sort of wheedled out quite quickly, aren't they? There's no real need for it. We're all trying to do the same. We're all trying to grow grass and just, you know, whatever capacity we do it in, or control grass more like it. But we're all trying to manage the areas that we look after to the best of our ability. And, you know, I've learned so much through social media. Like, I met Brian, obviously, who's hosting tonight, and he just chatting away to me, and anything that I need to know, he can help me out. And know he's always at the end of the phone line, and he's there, and he's a champion. He'll champion everybody, and it doesn't matter what side of the industry they're from. He will always praise them. He will always help them. He's always there to offer advice. And if he can't sort of work it out or know what needs to be done, he can find somebody that will do it for you. So, you know, it's a big thing there that you do, Brian. You know, it's really appreciated. I came into this from virtually nothing, you know, without much of a background in it at all, and you've helped me immensely, as so many other people throughout the industry, and I think that's great, because people do come in and you do get a real positive spin on it. You know, when things are going well, it's a bit tougher when things aren't going so well, but you know, we all sort of pull together, and if we all try and big each other up, it should bring us all up as one throughout the industry, I hope.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a great perspective, Jim. Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading off a blog that I'm releasing in a couple of weeks, and I sort of got some of the sort of stress factors, and we've mentioned a lot of them. But lone working or small team working, you know, that has quite an impact. I find I need to over communicate quite a lot, because I either work on my own, or I work with just an apprentice or whatever, you know. And that's why I find social media is very helpful, you know, because you do connect with people, and you do talk through these things. And if you take the social media away, you're there on your own. Generally, you can be completely on your own. So there's a lot of positives in that. And I think that's the same with like farming. A lot of mental health there is, I think, possibly down to weather cycles, lone working, you know. So that's just some thoughts there.
Is there enough support offered to, everyone in our industry on the mental health side of things? Do
you mean within our
within our own like industry, and is there enough support there that we can see that's open support? I'm not sure there is, if I'm honest.
No, I don't think there is. And I think because a lot of us work alone or in small teams, it can cause a big problem. You might not see people for hours on end or days on end, and then if you're working in a small team, you can spend more time with those people than you can your own family in a week. Easily you're sort of with them 8 to 10 hours per day. You might see your kids for half an or wife, husband, whatever, your partner, for half an hour in the morning and a couple of hours in the evening, before you go to bed and stuff, and that's it. But you're with these other people 8 to 10 hours a day, and sometimes you can be in a very small group, and it works, and it's a tight knit group, but there's not a lot of scope. And as Brian said, we've got the social media bit, and I think I used to believe that there was nothing social really about social media, and until I was in this industry, and then you realise that there is, because we are lone workers or work in small teams. We can have a lot of interaction with each other and bounce ideas off each other and help each other out, and it does work, and you do feel better. It's like we have our own, like we're doing now. We have our own little meeting room, sort of every day of the week if you want it, and everyone seems to be approachable. I don't think there's one person via social media that I've ever approached that has been, sort of negative back. They've always been helpful and given up their own time, regardless of what level they work at. So, yeah, but within the industry, though, from employers and stuff, I don't think there is a lot of support, because I don't think there's the framework there to put the support in. I think Brian knows more about it than I do, but I think bigger training some mental health advocates. I'm not sure how that's going to work, or mental health first aiders. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work, but I think Brian might know a bit more.
So they've pledged to create over 100 mental health first aiders free of charge. You do have to be a member or an associate of bigger. But I say they will pick the bill up on that. It's organised by Lantra. But Lantra, if they can get, I think, sort of 8 people regionally, they will actually provide a course within that area. So you could maybe team up with some private school. That may be tricky, but that is. I'm going to speak to my employer about possibly becoming a mental health first aider.
Does the GMA offer anything like that, or Pitch Care?
Pitch Care, I know. The GMA, at the moment, I've got this written down because it's from my blog, so that's how I can do my research. So mental health, the GMA are currently working on a health and wellbeing hub currently, which is coming soon, and that will be to everyone to access. They have got mental health and wellbeing policies, but it does say for its members. And learning live via SchoolText, another avenue they've used to address mental health issues. But it does say they're looking to expand their range of health and wellbeing resources.
I think that's something that needs to happen sort of fairly soon.
Yeah. Yes. So
and not necessarily be a member to get the support either.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did raise this point, and I was told that the mental health side would resources would be accessible to everyone. So that would be the case. So I've got some shocking facts. Bigger did a poll of its members, and 80% of greenkeepers polled said they were worried about their mental health. I did a very small one in comparison, and I come up to 65%. So, and the amount of people I speak to, and it's high. It is incredibly high.
It is
getting higher as well, isn't it, as the time passes?
Yes, and recruitment, weather patterns, expectancy of what the end user wants from, they look at Wembley and think they all want the same. It all adds pressure, and then possibly low pay. Puts pressures at home as well, and the lack of balance. Some of the hours I hear is just I can't believe, to be honest with you. I hear of people working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week for. It's not really about the money, actually. It's just that is just not right. I don't know what other industries that is acceptable, even in the offices of these places, you'd have people working that many hours. I think it's just, I don't know if it points to a lack of resources, and then groundsmen, or we're just putting in too much, and we're just not saying, look, this is unreasonable. I'm just wondering what everyone's thoughts were on that.
I think sort of on my side of things, working the extra hours and, long days, that is down to being short-staffed, and it is, wanting to still achieve the, the high standards of pitch preparation. But obviously you haven't got the staff to sort of help you do that. So because you're passionate and you're dedicated about your role, you just do those hours. Yes, it does have a knock-on effect, sort of, the work-life balance, mental health, tiredness. It can have a massive knock-on effect, and that goes back to sort of educating people. That goes back to sort of putting too much pressure on ourselves. But a lot, from my point of view, is being short-staffed.
I think there's also a large element of it being such a seasonal job, and that means that we need a high volume of hours at one time of the year versus another.
Yeah, I think it's all dependent on where you work as well. I mean, at the university we do a 35-hour week, and there's no pressure whatsoever on myself, and we've now got a happy team who we do what we do, and everyone works really hard, and we do that 35 hours. We don't try and go over it, and we're quite productive that way because everyone's happier.
That's great to hear. I think you're on a select few that happens to, but my goodness, if they could, people could sort of learn from that and push that out across the industry, that would make a huge difference to a lot of people. It really would.
But it's that pressure we put on ourselves, isn't it? Again, it's that like I said, I've struggled with my mental health before, but now I think if these jobs don't get done, they don't get done. I obviously try and work hard, and I put in a few extra hours here and there, but I try not to because it's not worth it.
I think it's like last year. I tried towards the end of the year. I had a few problems last year. We had some, like, personally. We had struggled mentally. Brian knows all about it. We struggled mentally. We had a big pressure point last year with the Queen's Jubilee. Now I look after a lot of public open spaces, and we went from sort of 6 of these public open spaces having something to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee to having almost 20 of these places celebrating the Queen's Jubilee, and they all sort of came on board within a few short weeks, and we had to go from a nice sort of round that we've got where we're under a little bit of pressure sometimes with the weather and stuff, and we're cutting everything sort of or maintaining everything sort of on a 7 to 10 day basis, a lot of it fortnightly, and then most of the cricket outfields a couple of times a week, to all of a sudden everything had to be cut and maintained on a weekly basis for 5 weeks in a row solidly. So it was at its peak for the event that was going on, and that put us under an immense amount of pressure. I also had to do a couple of public appearances on different days, which I know that's not industry related, but the pressure was on there and I had to do these things, and we were really up against it. And it sort of got to that, and I thought I was coping quite well. And like somebody said about the lack of sleep, that's a huge thing, the lack of sleep. I was coming back home, having some food, falling asleep, waking up, and I was waking up like I'd already had, a gallon of coffee, firing out the door, and I was going away, and I was thinking, look at what I've done, look at what I've achieved, I can't believe it. The bank holiday weekend came round, and after that, I just bang, I crashed, and I'd gone, and I'd literally gone, and it took so much to finish the season off. I had to dig so deep, and people around me had to help, and everybody, we had to force it, really, really force it. And it was this year we just turned out towards the end of last year and this year we said, look, we need to start documenting these things. And as you're saying, you've done your 35 hours, you've done a few extra hours, you've got your jobs in there. You can go to somebody and say, this is what I've done within these hours that are available. This is also what I've done in these extra things. And if I'd have done that, I think I'd have had a lot more understanding about what happened and why it happened, and the pressure that you put under. And then we got the King's coronation this year, so I'm a bit worried that the same thing might happen again, but we've got plans in place, so it's a big thing, isn't it? The pressure, big thing.
That's all great. Thanks for that, everybody. I'm probably slowly rounding up now to the end, but I do try and finish on a positive.
Yeah.
What are the sort of what are the things we can do if we are struggling? What the hell do we step back? What are the things we can do just to be, to just, if we're in that place now and we're just really struggling? What's your experience of the turning point where things started to get a bit better?
What me personally, what made it a bit better? People around me pulling in to help, whether it's like colleagues, friends, family, their understanding and support was huge, massive factor in it, and it really did. And again, the social media sort of side of it, and people offering help, ideas, better ways of doing things, more efficient ways of doing things, and it made a huge difference. A real positive sort of effect, and talking to people, and them understanding and explaining. It was fantastic, really, the way sort of everybody pulled together. I was blown away really by the support. It was fantastic. So it's an amazing community, and we can all draw on that, and now I'm a big advocate for this sort of thing, for mental health, for working conditions and things, and I'm really sort of positive and about what we can do and how we can achieve this. I think we can make a big difference, and I think bigger are trying to do that now, aren't they, with this scheme they've set up? Yeah, there might be a few creases to iron out of it, but they're setting the standards. They're at the forefront of this, so it's only going to get better. That's the positive from it all. It's only going to get better.
I think Perennial deserve a mention as well, because they're
they do.
They've been brilliant for me. I didn't go to them straight away, but when I did, I'm still in contact with them now. And yeah, they're not exactly in turf, the horticulture as a whole, and I think they're doing a fantastic job there. And it is somewhere where people can go for advice and help in so many different ways. So yeah, that is one thing that is already there.
Yeah, and were they approached?
Yeah, they've been brilliant with me. I rang up and I got a caseworker within a few weeks, a couple of weeks or something like that. And I've stayed with the same person since. They came out to see me, and they offer support for financially, for anything that you've got going on. As long as you're employed in horticulture, they're there to help. They're really good.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I think somebody asked for the link there, didn't they? I'm sure Brian.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
I'm sure Brian will be able to sort a link out. But yeah, see, that's great news, isn't it? That there's somebody out there. There is somebody out there looking out for us. That's a positive thing.
Yeah,
you can perennial charity, and it will come up. But yeah, I've got a thing here because obviously I included them in my links. But Perennial can offer us support on debt, housing, health and well-being, and yeah, even people going through real bad times, they're very supportive as much as they can be. They're a charity. But yeah, I'll make sure on my social media tomorrow or tonight I'll chuck up the link as also for their website, because they're doing fantastic stuff.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
I think signposting is something that is a really easy thing for potentially people like the GMA bigger to do, and just make sure, because there is charities out there. It's not all related to our industry, but there is a lot of things out there, and knowing where to go and people having the confidence to go to these places, I think, is an easy win in a way.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think if we see a hole also that we think, that we want to try and encourage our organisations to run with or consider, then I think we should, we can get together on that and do a joint email or something and just say, is this something we could consider? Is this something you've considered? Usually they have considered it, or then maybe they haven't, but I think we together we should be putting these things across and sort of letting them know that we've got an idea and it could be a good idea. We should at least put it out there, because it's our
thing is, Brian, you're already doing it now. You're already doing it. You do this sort of stuff all the time on social media. And by running these little groups and events that you do, you are doing it already, and you're pushing stuff out there. And some people, are not always 100% sort of happy with what you do, but you're somebody who stick your head above the parapet and say, hold on a minute, I don't think this is quite fair. And you will get yourself heard, and you will get the voices of other people heard as well. And that's something really commendable, to be honest with you. I think it's a fantastic thing that you do. And by doing this and what we're doing now, we are pushing this out there for people to understand that there are groups out there, and like that Perennial sounds a fantastic charity. I'll have to have a look at that and see if I can sort of do anything with them to sort of help them in any way.
No. And there's no shame to it either. You admit it, and it's easy to actually admit it and start talking about it. I found. It really is. There's such a stigma around, like, oh, it's a weakness, but it's just not. No way.
Yeah, that's something that I've realised in the last few weeks, I have to say, is being able to sort of talk about it, not keep everything to yourself. It is okay to ask for help. And the support that I've had in the last few weeks has been amazing, and that's from everybody, whether they're in the industry or not.
That's great, everybody. I think that'll probably round us up now. I really want to thank you all. I think you all turning up, taking the time out of, you've all been at work all day, but you've given the time. No one's getting paid here. This is just pure passion and wanting to help the wider industry. So just want to thank you all really for being here and, for what you do for everybody. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
With all them compliments from Jimmy, I started to think that you were paying him.
I am paid, yeah. There's no doubt about that. I am paid very well as well.
There's a Jimmy the Mower cap coming, isn't there, somewhere?
Currently coming to you from my cardboard box because I had to read. Yeah.
Have you been allowed to ride on his Ransom's mower, Brian?
No. You won't let me win patch of the day.
You in the random prize draw, there's one certainty, is you will never win patch of the day.
That's hurt. Right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.